You know that feeling in a conversation when things just go quiet and it gets awkward and nobody knows where to look? Well, imagine if that was your permanent state of being. For most social robots, it kind of is. Hi, I'm the lead author on this research, and I want to take you on our journey to solve this very problem, teaching a robot the simple but incredibly complex art of knowing where to look.
See, when a robot just stares into space or locks onto the wrong thing, it's more than just a little weird. It's a fundamental barrier. We're not just talking about making small talk with a machine. We're talking about what's stopping robots from truly being helpful collaborators in our hospitals, our schools, and even our homes. Getting this one seemingly small thing right, that's the key to unlocking that entire future.
So let's dive in. What makes this such a tough nut to crack for social robots? Well, the big problem is that most systems right now are kind of brittle. They're built on these very rigid, pre-programmed rules that work just fine, in a perfect lab setting with two people. But the second you add a third person or someone just moves unexpectedly, the whole thing just falls apart. They just can't adapt to the real world. My team and I knew that just writing more and more rules was a dead end. We had to find a completely different way to think about it. So we looked to the one place with literally billions of years of R&D in social interaction, biology. The idea we really latched onto is something called habituation. And trust me, you experience this all day, every day. Think about it. When you walk into a room with a noisy air conditioner, for the first minute, it's all you hear. But after a while, your brain just tunes it out. It filters out that constant, unchanging noise so you can focus on what's new, what's important. We thought, what if we could teach a robot to do the exact same thing? So we translated this into a kind of three-step dance for our robot. First, habituation. As the robot gets better at a task, it stops exploring so much and becomes more focused. Simple enough. Second, dishabituation. Now, if it gets stuck, we programmed a mechanism to give its attention a little jolt, forcing it to look around and explore brand new solutions. And finally, step 3, spontaneous recovery. Once it figures things out after that jolt, it snaps right back to being focused. So it's the cycle: focus, jolt, refocus. Okay, so we had our theory. It was inspired by biology, it felt elegant, it felt like it should work. But, theories are one thing. We had to see if it would actually hold up when the rubber met the road. So it was time for an experiment. And to really put this thing through its paces, we didn't just test it on one type of AI. We tested it on 3 very different AI brains. First, there was DQL. You can think of that one as the modern deep thinker, using a big, complex neural network. Then we had VQL. It's more of a classic, old-school AI that just follows a simple table of rules. And finally, we had MOL, the ambitious multitasker, an AI that has to constantly juggle multiple, often competing goals. We ran all the simulations, we crunched all the numbers, and we started looking at the results. And what we found was not what we were expecting at all. It was a complete twist that totally changed how we thought about borrowing ideas from biology. All right, so the big question. After all that work, after building this whole system, did our clever little idea from biology actually do any good? The results were, honestly, they were a shock. So look at the graph on the left. That's our deep thinker AI, DQL. You can see the line goes down faster. That means it learned more quickly. Great, a nice, clean win. Now, look at the graph on the right. That's our multitasker, MOL. See that huge, massive spike? That's how many times it got stuck and we had to reset it. Our supposedly helpful biological idea completely, catastrophically broke it. So here's the final scorecard. For DQL, the deep thinker, our idea was helpful. For VQL, the simple rule follower, it didn't really make a difference one way or the other. But for MOL, our multitasker, it was a disaster. The AI just went completely off the rails because our stuck detector was firing all the time, yanking the AI back to the beginning before it even had a chance to think properly. And just to give you a sense of the scale of this failure, our multitasking AI needed one of those disruptive resets 160 times more often than the one that worked. 160 times. This was not a small bug. This was a fundamental mismatch. So why did it fail so badly? Well, it was kind of like we installed a smoke alarm that was way, way too sensitive. The multitasking AI simply needed more time to think, to weigh all its different goals against each other. But our biological mechanisms saw that longer thinking time as a problem, as a fire, and it just kept pulling the alarm, completely preventing the AI from ever learning anything. But here's the great thing about research. Even a spectacular failure teaches you something really important. And what this taught us was that we had the right idea, we just needed to pair it with the right AI. So we took our winner, the DQL model, and decided it was time to see if it was ready for the real world. So we took our best model, that DQL brain, combined with our habituation trick, and we put it into the physical, airy humanoid robot. And this is where things get really tough. Because the real world isn't a clean simulation. It's messy, it's unpredictable, and it's full of things you can never, ever program for. So how did it do? Well, across nearly 450 trials with real people in that messy, unpredictable real world, it absolutely nailed it. We hit 95.1% accuracy. That's not just a good grade, that is a massive success. It proves that this approach actually works where it counts. This chart here is basically the robot's final report card. See that strong, bright diagonal line running right down the middle? That shows all the times it got the answer exactly right. Those are the A pluses. It successfully navigated that complex, messy social dance of a real human conversation over and over again. So what does all this mean? After the theory and the shocking failure and the real-world success, what's the one thing I really hope you take away from our journey? It's this, and this is so, so important. Just having a good idea from biology is not enough. It's not some magic bullet you can just apply to any problem in AI. It has to be the right idea matched with the right AI architecture. That connection, that compatibility, that, it turns out, is everything. And that whole experience leaves me with this one last question for all of us. We found this hidden, critical flaw in what seemed like a brilliant, obvious idea. So as we race to build our future with AI for things like self-driving cars and medical diagnoses, what other obvious ideas are we borrowing without stopping to ask if they're really the right fit? What other surprising twists are waiting just around the corner?